Good evening and welcome to Money Matters. My name is Kimon Hatza and I'm a business attorney at Growth Counsel in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We provide a full panoply of corporate transactional services for our clients. I focus my practice in the areas of technology and life sciences. Tonight, we're continuing our series on life sciences leaders in the Delaware Valley. Before I get started, I want to remind our viewers that from time to time, financial issues relating to life sciences or technology matters or companies may be discussed on the show. These discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the show is pre-recorded and shown at a later time, the information may no longer be current. You should always check with your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm happy to have with me as my co-host this evening, Charlie Huntinton. Charlie is the head of public relations for Life Sciences PA. Life Sciences PA is the voice of advancement for the life sciences in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Charlie, thank you for co-hosting.
Pleasure, Kimon.
Charlie, many of our viewers are either members of Life Sciences PA or attend many of the programs sponsored by Life Sciences PA. I was wondering if you might take a minute and share with our viewers any recent news and maybe any upcoming programs.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kimon. Probably the biggest news of the year is Life Sciences PA is relocating their offices for where they've been for many years off Swedesford Road in Wayne to the Discovery Labs site, which many of us know used to be GlaxoSmithKline's Upper Merion site. So that's going to happen a few weeks from now in late February, early March. And I know they're looking forward to that. And that's going to provide a lot of space as well as the ability for those of us connected to life science to brush elbows with brothers and sisters in the industry far more than we used to be able to. So lots of them will be located right there with a heavy focus on businesses that have spun out of Penn. So that's one thing. I'll highlight some things on the calendar. My favorite is rapidly becoming the annual tailgate, which started during COVID, and that is that's always a hit. It's in King of Prussia, and I think they had upwards of 1,000 people at that last year on what probably was the hottest day of the year. But we're looking forward to that. Casual clothes are fine for that one. And then mid-summer, July 19 to 21, there's a virtual event, which is Life Sciences Future, focused on med tech. And then in October 6 and 7, there's a Life Sciences Future event, which is the BioPharm event that many of us know. And that one still may be in person. They haven't decided whether that one's going to be virtual or not yet. So just wanted to highlight a few things and appreciate the opportunity to do so, Kimon.
Sure thing. Well, we have a terrific guest for our show tonight, Charlie, but before I bring him out, I just wanted to remind our viewers that if you have a question you would like us to answer on a future show, watch this video to see how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
It's with great pleasure that I welcome our special guest this evening, Stephen Kelly. Mr. Kelly is the president and CEO of Carisma Therapeutics, a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company discovering and developing innovative immunotherapies to improve and extend the lives of cancer patients. He joined Carisma 4 years ago, bringing nearly 30 years of experience with pharmaceutical and biotech companies in all phases of the business and across multiple therapeutic categories, albeit with significant experience in the oncology space. Mr. Kelly's experience includes various commercial and manufacturing roles at larger companies such as Sanofi, IDEC Pharmaceuticals, and Amgen, as well as senior executive positions at early stage companies, including being the CEO of Kimon Therapeutics, the CEO of Theracrin, and the CEO of In-Vivo Pharmaceuticals, to name a few. He received his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Oregon and his MBA from Cornell University. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kimon. It's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely. Thanks.
We're certainly happy to have you. Steve, what first attracted you to a career in the life sciences?
I think it started in college. Of course, I was pursuing biology and chemistry both, and it's fascinating. I found the science really intriguing, and when I graduated with a degree in biology and chemistry, I was able to secure a position at Amgen back when it was a relatively small company, a couple hundred people, and really jumped right in and have been building my career ever since, whether it's in manufacturing, at that time, process development, and then I left, got an MBA, and went back for business applications of the science.
I asked this next question of a lot of our guests who are CEOs, although in your case, this question may answer itself. How did your experience with larger pharma and biotech companies, as well as your more recent experiences with startups and early stage companies, including one of which you were the founder, help prepare you to be the CEO of Carisma?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that it hasn't been by design necessarily, but it's really building blocks. And like I said, I started off in manufacturing. And so that's an essential component of the work we're doing in life sciences. Then I was able to get a marketing background and launched some multi-billion-dollar a year programs. Went from there to a startup company where I learned fundraising and the entire capital markets side. And so really it's been building blocks, covering everything from ideation to discovery to clinical to commercialization, and then monetization, either through business development transactions or through product sales, and all with the ultimate aim of benefiting the patient. So it's building blocks is how I would say it over the last 30 years, I guess.
That's great. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of your role as CEO of Carisma?
I think it comes down to managing risk. So we're breaking new ground at Carisma, doing something that's never been done before, leveraging the learnings from a variety of other players, but applying it to a new technology. And I think that managing that risk and managing the spend to focus, deliver value inflection points as we go forward is really the most important thing. So deliver results and be capital efficient in the process.
Great.
Steve, would you tell us about Carisma Therapeutics, please?
Oh, yeah. So Carisma it's a Penn spinout. It was formed in 2016 by two great scientists, and Mike Klichinsky and Sard Gill. And their idea was to take the approach that was developed at Penn around CAR T, or chimeric antigen receptor T cells, which is a way to give T cells ability to recognize cancer cells and eliminate them, and apply it to a new cell, the macrophage. Macrophages are essentially the body's Pac-Man. They patrol through circulation, they look for things that shouldn't be there and eliminate them. And what we've done is engineered the macrophage to recognize cancer cells. And so we do that work outside the body and then put the patient's cells back in, and then they'll go and find a specific target on the cancer cell and then start a cascade of events where it kills the cancer cell, but also mobilizes the immune system to continue the work and make sure that the cancer is eliminated and doesn't come back.
Steve, why is Carisma in this business?
It comes down to the huge unmet medical need in solid tumors. Cell therapy as a category has been fantastic in hematologic malignancies like leukemia and lymphoma. However, has lacked activity in solid tumors. And we believe that macrophages fundamentally address the primary objections or the obstacles, the barriers, the ability to target and traffic to and target cancer cells in the solid tumor environment, the ability to overcome an immunosuppressive signal that blunts the activity of the cells, and the ability to overcome something that's called antigen heterogeneity. And so not all cancer cells will express a single target. And so we have to be able to address that as well to prevent relapse for antigen negative relapse. And macrophages address each of those three things exquisitely. And so we're really pursuing it. We think it's a fantastic game-changing approach to solid tumor cell therapy.
So what are the company's main areas of focus?
So right now, I would boil it down into three very tightly aligned areas. One is discovery. So we're building new understanding and awareness of of macrophage biology and how to deploy them. So the discovery side is addressing key questions about how to make these cells work the way we want them to. Number two is clinical development. So we are in the clinic with a HER2 targeted CAR macrophage that HER2 is present on breast cancer, gastroesophageal, ovarian, colon, lung. These are all cancers with unmet medical need. And so we're doing clinical development to establish a clinical baseline of our activity. Lastly, and importantly, we're focusing on manufacturing. This is a capital intensive area where we're working, creating these cells and engineering these cells externally. And so we need to get that exactly right. And so those three pieces are well combined to deliver on the promise of this approach.
So does Carisma have proprietary IP?
We do. So in the foundation of the company, Sar and Mike were at Penn. Penn holds the IP portfolio. It's a broad IP portfolio that contemplates putting a CAR, a chimeric antigen receptor, in monocytes, macrophages, or dendritic cells through our viral means, through non-viral means, regardless of the starting cell source, an autologous or a patient-derived source or an off-the-shelf approach. It doesn't matter. We have a very broad IP portfolio staking out our position in engineering macrophages, regardless of the therapeutic category.
So what stage would you say of development is the company's technology?
So we're early. We're in the clinical investigation stage, I would say. So we were formed 5 years ago. Our first funding came in 4 years ago. And we're really optimizing the platform, doing the clinical investigation stage to establish that clinical baseline, to understand what we have to engineer to improve it. We will continue to evolve this first product and look at other ways to deploy it clinically, answer these questions, and eventually getting into a registrational approach. We're also looking at bringing on other antigen targets as we go forward as well.
So will you require FDA approval?
Eventually, yes. It's probably I would say 3 to 5 year to get to the point where we are satisfied with our results, that we have established clinical efficacy with a safety profile that makes sense in a competitive environment. But once we've established that, we can put it into a registrational approach and a phase 3 study where we would eventually generate the data and submit that to the FDA.
Okay, and what does your recent fast track designation granted by the FDA mean for Carisma?
Yeah, so fast track is one of these 3 different programs the FDA has in place. What it enables us to do is have a very close dialogue with the FDA as we go forward. So we have these are called interact meetings where we can come with questions along the way. So we've seen this, we wanted to sort of change a slight direction and pursue this way. And it's really an open door policy by the FDA enabling us to have that dialogue to more efficiently drive to a point where the data supports an FDA approval. And so it's that tight alliance. And it's an important part of our regulatory pathway.
That's great to have that interaction with them. What would you anticipate as other uses for your technology, if any?
Yeah, so if you think about the macrophage, what they do is they look for things that shouldn't be there. So it's very good at it's called phagocytosis, or eating. And so they go through the cells and will eat things that shouldn't be there. So we could deploy it in a variety of ways. So oncology makes a lot of sense. Cancer cells should not be there. We're showing the macrophages how to target and drive the eating process. There are other places that you could think about. Liver fibrosis is a perfect example. Macrophages tend to traffic towards liver, and you have liver fibrosis or fibrotic conditions that you want eliminated. The macrophages could go in and eat those fibrotic lesions. Same thing would be true for neurodegeneration, where there's accumulation of proteins, whether it's alpha, beta, tau, alpha-synuclein, A beta, tau, and alpha-synuclein. So you could target those and eliminate those. And so we're still exploring where are all the places that we could deploy an engineered macrophage.
Steve, I want to switch to a topic that's both typically near and dear to the hearts of many of our guests and also the bane of their existence, financing. How's the company financed currently, and what's your plan for financing and growing the company down the road?
Yeah, a great question. You're right. It could be the bane of Fuel's existence. So this is a capital-intensive business, and there's no question cell therapy is probably on the top for biotech in terms of how much capital is needed to realize the potential. So our funding to date has been 2 rounds of equity financing, $60 million raised in a Series A in June of 2018. An additional $60 million was raised in February of last year. And that gives us cash runway for some time, but we'll still have to access the capital markets. Fortunately, we also just announced a partnership with Moderna that gave us a cash upfront position, extending our cash runway into 2023. Regardless, our approach is to do additional equity financing. And eventually, I think with the magnitude that we're looking for, we have to make the leap to a public listing and access the public capital markets.
Okay. Talk a little bit about the importance of that collaboration with Moderna.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. So we started speaking with Moderna back in July last year. And obviously, we believe we're the world's experts in engineering macrophages and monocytes. They're the world's experts in mRNA and something called lipid nanoparticle technology, which is a delivery vehicle. And it turns out that we reached out to them and tried to see if we could have a research collaboration to look at what's called in vivo delivery, or the ability to rather than do all the engineering outside the body, do it inside the body. What they have is a delivery technology that hones towards circulating monocytes. So what we're going to be doing is building and constructing the mRNA sequence to deliver our gene into macrophages, and we'll use their delivery technology to get it to the macrophages in the body. What it means for us is it's a brand new way to deploy our technology from the cell therapy approach to an in vivo off-the-shelf approach, and it's really fantastic. It customized or personalized approach to developing CAR monocytes. What it means for us from a financial perspective, $80 million up front in cash and an equity investment. They will fully fund all the research and development going forward. And there are significant milestones on discovery, clinical, and commercial sales, as well as a royalty. So it's really a fantastic opportunity that may be able to address some of the challenges around cell therapy in terms of being off the shelf and the costs associated with that. And it should be able to, if we can solve many of the technical challenges, should be a great boon for cancer patients.
That's great. Talk a little about are there competitive products in the industry now? And if so, could you distinguish your technology from what's currently out there?
Yeah, I think that there's 2 ways to look at competition. One would be cell therapy. So we are in the cell therapy space. T cells have been developed for a number of years. A lot of work has come out of Penn, forming companies to drive this forward. There are, I believe it's 3 approved CAR T cells in heme malignancy. A lot of those companies are trying to look into solid tumors to see if there's an approach. So they would be considered competitors, but we think, again, we have a differentiated approach. Other competitors would be things that focus on macrophages like us. And so there's these macrophage depletion strategies, or macrophage repolarization strategies, or remove a don't eat me signals, hoping to engage macrophages. So there's a lot of approaches in that way to leverage the really fantastic mechanisms that macrophages provide. When you look at specifically engineering macrophages or monocytes, is a very limited list of competitors. And fortunately, our intellectual property position that we talked about a little bit earlier should be sufficient to keep some of those competitors out.
That's great. What are the biggest barriers to entry into your industry?
So intellectual property is hugely important, not just for us, but any life sciences company that's going out there. So I think that if you're differentiated, you have a unique idea, you can attract capital, because that's the next barrier. Will you have enough capital to pursue various indications? Mm-hmm. The third thing is people. And I think that we have a fantastic group of people. We're 60 employees. And deep understanding of macrophage biology and how to engineer macrophages, deep understanding of cell therapy manufacturing. So it's another important part, and also a clinical development expertise as well. And so, we have an idea, we have the capital to develop it, and we have the people to drive it forward. And so those are the biggest barriers. Other companies can pull things like that together, but if you nail it on all three of those, I think you're in a really good spot.
That's great. So what would success look like for Carisma?
I think that as we look out over the next 3 to 5 years, driving our programs into further clinical development, whether it's more registrational studies so we can get onto the market, it's probably a 5-year path to actually get an approved agent to market. That's really what we're driving for. We want to develop this technology for cancer patients. And I think that would be success if we can get that onto the market. I think other metrics would be, where else can we deploy macrophages outside of oncology, and expanding utility would also be success.
Okay, great.
Steve, you've lived in San Diego, you've lived in Boston, you live here. How important is it to live in the right region? How does the greater Philadelphia area compare for building a life sciences company in this region? If you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah. So the one thing I would say is that the weather in Philadelphia does not compare well. That's a conducive part of building a company and attracting people. But no, seriously, when I moved down here 4 years ago from Boston, obviously Boston has been known as a growing and important hub in the life sciences area. When I came down here, what I saw is a growing biotech area. A lot of life sciences legacy, and maybe that's not the right word, but pharma companies. And so when you're looking at building an innovative platform, there are people that you can attract out of life sciences. And I think that having that core group of people and the fact that life sciences has been part of the Philadelphia area for a long time is important. So you can attract the people. You have innovative institutions where you can license IP. For us, it was Penn. But there are other things. So you want to have these innovative ideas. Capital these days comes from everywhere. It would be great to have venture capital formed in Philadelphia, but I think we've proven over the last several years it's not essential. We can attract the venture investors from New York and from the Bay Area, from Boston, Seattle. It doesn't matter. We can attract the capital in here, but innovative ideas and a good talent pool, both from established pharma companies as well as coming out of these academic institutions, are really important things. And so I've been really pleased to see the growth of this environment over the last 4 years. And it's just been fantastic. And while there's a concentration on cell and gene therapy, I think the entire ecosystem is really growing. The last area that I'd mention is facilities. So there has been a need to get infrastructure. So as little companies, you can go into an incubator. When you want to evolve out of that incubator into a more established, 50-person firm and have the labs to support that, it's a little bit different. And so I've also seen that there have been developers coming into the area and building that capability. So you can graduate from incubator to small company to mid-size to eventually large size. And so I think those are the elements that are essential, what I see here in Philadelphia.
Kimon, I'm going to defer to you, and I know we're of limited time, so Why don't you take us home?
Let me ask you two more questions, I guess. Continuing on the same theme from Charlie's question about comparing Philadelphia to other life sciences hubs, what do you see as the biggest challenges for the greater Philadelphia area in terms of sustaining a vibrant life sciences community?
Well, I think it's attracting and having turnover is not the right word, but new companies forming, I think, gives us a the ability to attract additional companies. And so I just was speaking with another person that's starting a company and said, should we move to Philadelphia to start this company? And I think it's attracting entrepreneurs that really want to drive this, people that are experienced in company ideation, formation, and eventually development and commercialization. I think that is really important to have an attractive environment. And then and being able to share that with people that are looking at places and locations to form companies is important. So we have to be advertise Philadelphia as a place to be and a great place to build a company. And so I think that's what we need to do, and then make sure all the pieces are in place. Great people, infrastructure, and ideas, and access to capital. I think those would be the four elements that I would see.
That's great. In recent years, many of the larger pharmaceutical companies have laid off many of the folks in their research and development departments that have, more or less outsourced that role to a variety of other groups. And we have run into a number of folks who have been displaced by big pharma, but have been working on, a compound for, many years and are considering starting their own company. What advice would you have to folks that are who have not done this before, but are considering, taking some knowledge, some intellectual property they might know or have access to, and starting their own company?
Well, I think that you mentioned intellectual property. That's the key first step. Is this a protectable asset or category of assets that are going to be able to, have freedom to operate and develop? That's the first criteria. You have a great idea. Can you protect it? Secondly, you have to look at how would you generate data showing value of your asset as you go forward. And so there are various inflection points, and oftentimes inventors tend to go wide and like, oh, I can do this, this, and this. But you really have to focus in on what is the single data set that is going to demonstrate value to investors. And that's how you attract investors. It's a protected asset. It's well differentiated. Here's data showing that it's going to work. I'm going to invest in your company and drive forward. And I think that's how you set this up. And then it just becomes, more of a routine. Continue to be focused and get to various value inflection points. Know that you're funded to that value inflection point. The last thing you want to do is fund to halfway. And then you're not going to really be able to continue to fund. And so always look at what are those gating factors as you go forward. So in essence, it's a plan. It's a data generation plan married with capital generation.
Okay, good advice. Well, I think we're pretty close to the end. I don't know that we have time for any more questions, so I probably should wrap it up here. We'd love to have you back another time and talk some more. I think we could probably easily fill another show. So my thanks this evening to our special guest, Stephen Kelly, the CEO of Carisma. Charlie Huntinton, thank you as always for co-hosting. Sure. The next guest on Money Matters TV is Nick Izzy, CPA of Izzy & Company. Thank you all for listening this evening, and we'll see you again next time.